right, I am here with Daniel Amor, aka Heisenberg. How are you doing tonight?
Doing very well. Thanks, Kendall.
So, first question for you: what did you think of the Better Call Saul finale?
Okay, so I am one season behind.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But I've loved everything from Better Call Saul so far. I'm like waiting for it to come out on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
I'm very bad with technology, so like no webcam here, and yeah, it's pretty consistent here with my stories. I'm pretty bad with technology.
Okay, I did just notice that my microphone is actually turned way down, so that's probably why you had to turn me up. So I am correcting that now. I had it at recording singing volume instead of talking volume. So hopefully I'm not blowing out your eardrums now.
No, we're good.
All right. So yeah, let's actually I did get a number of questions that were Breaking Bad adjacent about you. So your username Heisenberg. Are you a giant Breaking Bad fan? Does everyone ask you that? Do you regret choosing that as your username on GEMP 700 years ago?
Yes, and yes. So absolutely huge fan. I can kind of remember the moment I signed up for it, and I feel like if I remember, like Breaking Bad was still on TV, and we were like I was sitting on the couch with my roommate, and we were about to watch the last season, and I was picking a username, and I was like, I'll take Eisenberg. It sounds menacing. It sounds fearsome and anonymous.
Yeah.
And at the time, there was only Premiere and A New Hope, so I felt like I could actually crush, and the screen name fit. But yes, I've really wanted to change it, um, especially after I had realized that I started to get a pretty bad reputation for playing slowly and maybe not finishing games, or being quiet in the chat, and playing the same deck. Um, but I started to get a pretty bad reputation that I was aware of. But like I guess when I joined Slack, like it was like a big step into the community for me to like realize that everyone is actually talking together all the time, and it's not just the GEMP chat or like the forums. And like this is a vibrant community of friends that are just talking all the time, and which I think is fantastic. Like it's actually the only social media I use now is the GEMP Slack.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's actually kind of interesting because, I mean, I'm sure that you can see this, but I mean, there is sort of a negative stereotype of a certain type of Breaking Bad fan. The people who like the show and think that Walter White is the hero. And so it's
Jesse's the hero, and Gus is a badass.
Yeah. But I can see how, like, if you started to get that, a little bit of a negative reputation, how that could, how that name could snowball things because people would have
I do
preconceptions.
Yeah, of course. At first, it was intended to be like anonymous and menacing, and then I kind of got off to a bad start with.
And then people thought you were anonymous and menacing, and so.
Yeah, I like sincerely like love to game and love to play with games with friends, and like would never want to like be a part of poor sportsmanship or like troll anyone, like that's never the spirit of the way I've been frustrating people, and I'm actually like I've in the past I've definitely like publicly tried to apologize both on Slack and in the game chat for the technical difficulties I had in the past, and like frustrating players by disconnecting or just not responding or playing really like disconnecting and reconnecting and playing really slow. But yeah,
and that really comes down to it was technical limitations. You had bad internet, and
I had really bad internet and a really bad laptop, and like sometimes like So like I would play with my buddy and we would talk over the phone and like while this game is loading, it would take like, 10 minutes for the game to load and we're just chatting and being really patient, but when I'm playing with someone online and they don't want to wait like 10 to 20 minutes for my game to load,
Mm-hmm.
so and I get that, but like the first thing that would happen too is my chat would crash. And I figured
Mm-hmm.
like that was kind of like the least essential part of the game.
Right.
So I didn't want to just refresh if that was the only thing not working, especially because it would just crash again. So,
Mm.
it was just terrible technical difficulties. I was living in a studio and we couldn't connect high-speed internet, so I was like running off a hotspot with a crappy laptop, but like so into playing online that I couldn't
Yeah.
help myself. So I apologize to everyone
Yeah.
if that was frustrating.
Well, and I mean, honestly, compared with, it was always interesting to me that you got as much grief as you did, because I mean, I don't chat hardly at all in in the GEMP games. Like I'm like literally like, and this is how I felt with because I was playing when I first started with GEMP. I was also playing Magic Online back. Again, you said when it was Premiere and A New Hope. I think when I got started, I can't remember if it was just Premiere. I think it was just Premiere had been fully coded, and then there was some stuff up through Hoth when I first got on GEMP. Um, and then I disappeared for a while after that for various reasons. But like my whole thing with Magic the Gathering Online is I'm like, this is great. I can play this game without having to talk to people, and GEMP is this, and I mean, frankly, GEMP is the same way. Like, it's really nice to just be able to, to load up a game and to try stuff out. And I mean, yeah, it is the same handful of people, but it's also just like, just play the game. You're not, I think it's, saying good luck, have fun at the beginning and good game at the end is probably is kind of good to do. But I mean,
I feel like I couldn't even manage that with the
yeah,
technology I was working with. It was rough. It was brutal.
it's just crazy how people get so mad about that.
Yeah. It's yeah. I mean, it's fair.
But yeah, I don't know, because yeah, I don't ever remember, and I don't ever, to be fair, I don't ever remember issues with running into issues with slow play with you. So it may have been,
I got it
I may
figured out
have,
eventually.
either you figured it out eventually, or we were all playing really slow. People did used to complain about. I remember one of the first times I played on GEMP, I was playing at a perfectly normal speed, and somebody was like, "Are you playing on your phone? Why are you so slow?" Like, I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I'm playing Star Wars. This is how fast you play Star Wars cards.
I love to play casually anyway. Like it's a relaxing thing for me. I'm not like amped up to like finish the game. I really like to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I actually last night for one of the first times ever, I almost timed out. I was playing against Scotland Grell, and I didn't, and we were in the Blitz League, I think is what it's called, the 40-minute league. And I was like, why isn't he conceding? Because I had kind of because I had him, I was at like 20 force and he was at like 9 force, and we were just draining each other. And I'm like, why isn't he conceding? And then I looked at my clock. He had 20 minutes left on his clock. I had less than 5 minutes left on my clock. I was like, oh. So that's my definition of slow play. So you did kind of good at this event this past weekend.
Surprisingly, yes,
Yeah,
I did.
yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like with majors, a lot of times you see the same people doing well, and I mean it's great if somebody who has made a bunch of top eights or has been on the bubble makes it into the finals or something like that. But like I always look and I'm like, is there a name that I don't recognize? And I had to ask. I can't remember if I asked in the main Slack or in my team Slack. I'm like, who's this Daniel Amor guy?
Right.
Because I know you as Heisenberg. It didn't say Heisenberg in the standings.
It's definitely the first time I've won anything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, and that's always, and to me, that's always, and that's always interesting. So, and I mean, you finished second overall, but you ended up number one in the Swiss, right?
I did,
So,
yeah.
so that's, I mean, that's a big deal, and this was one of those events. I mean, there were only 25 players, but it was like every single player there was a name. There was not, you didn't have. I'm sure that you did not have a single game that was, that was an easy, that was that was an automatic win for you.
Yeah, I
Um,
kind of knew that going into it, but I also dodged some big names as well. Not any disrespect to the people I did play, but I could
yeah.
name like 3 top players that I completely dodged and was happy to do so.
Well, that's always, that's just strategy right there.
Yeah, totally.
That's what whenever I play in Indianapolis, my strategy is always to just dodge Brian Fred. Any tournament that I play in Indianapolis and I manage to not play against Brian Fred, I got a pretty good chance at winning.
That's the wrong attitude, Kendall. He's a pleasure to play against.
Oh, I mean, I play against him plenty. One time I beat him.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'll tell you what, dude. I was not at all concerned about winning the tournament.
uh-huh.
Because I mean, I was lucky. The tournament was 15 minutes from my house. And so I have a newborn baby as well, 3 weeks old. So I didn't really put any prep in. I had agents built from a tournament before. I did spend like a few hours, like basically deck teching the QMC and just adding a few things, and quickly trying to put it together. And I kind of knew I didn't have any time to switch decks. So I was kind of going there with like, these are my decks. I'm going to go have a great time. Like I've invested very little, like, and I'm just really happy with any result and really happy that I'm playing Star Wars cards.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just really happy to be playing like on stream with Brian Fred, like win or lose. And I feel like that mentality was beneficial maybe because I wasn't afraid to lose ever,
Mm. Took some of the pressure off. So
Absolutely.
you did end up with AOBS and QMC, which I think were two of the more popular decks for the event. What made you choose those two decks?
Well, they're decks that I know. I mean, I did spend some time playing QMC, and I am part of a team now. So when I floated those 2 deck ideas, no one was like, "Though that's a bad choice for the
Mm-hmm.
meta." They're like, "No, those are tier 1 decks, like, and they're decks that I knew, and Agents was already built, and I kind of figured that um." For day one, I was kind of expecting a lot of people to be playing Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, and so I was concerned about that as an Agents player. So I just added 2 hidden weapons and 2 Boba Fett bounty hunters and a blast source control, and was like, I'm just gonna go get them. And I had never played against any of those Jedi Luke decks, so it didn't really matter. But that was kind of the only concern where I thought Agents would be a bad choice. I thought all the other decks would kind of have to struggle to keep Luke on the table, and Agents would be a good choice.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, but I'm sure that your story of that tournament will be told many times in many places. Let's take a look back. So how did you get started with Star Wars cards?
I got started in 5th grade, about 1996, and my good friend who was a fan of Star Wars had the 2-player box, and maybe another friend had one, and we got like a booster or starter box, the starter decks. And one of the starter decks actually had like a Luke, which was a really exciting pull for us as a group to see come out of a pack.
Everybody always pulled something good in those first few packs.
Well, I think those starter decks are really actually quite good at getting R1s. But yeah, so it was like 5th grade. my friends had sleepovers where we would like watch the Star Wars trilogy, and that's kind of like how I got into Star Wars was just like watching the trilogy with my friends.
Yep.
Just renting them from Blockbuster and bringing them home. I remember one time we had to decide to pick two out of the three, and that was kind of difficult. But yeah, we went with Empire and Return of the Jedi. Um, but anyways, yeah, so I got into Star Wars that way, and then the cards were fun. Like, I mean, when I was younger, like my dad taught me how to play chess, and so I love strategy games. And like, I feel like there was a summer where everyone had a birthday party where we would go to the park, have a squirt gun fight, and all the gifts were Star Wars cards. Like,
Mm-hmm.
my friends got into it, like to an extent. Like, some of them would just wanted to collect. We were very young,
Mm-hmm.
fifth grade, like 10. So some of them collected, but like me and my friends started to actually play, and we definitely like learned wrong. We thought it could be worse was like the most ridiculous card, because why would using force be worse than losing force? Like, we just thought that that was absurd.
I mean, that's not true.
But we definitely didn't understand attrition. Like, there were definitely like a lot of mistakes learning the game. And somehow we ended our way to a local tournament. And I think maybe we observed one time, and then we actually brought decks another time. And I had an attack run deck the first time I came, and I was gonna try to blow up the Death Star, and that's very not practical.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean I didn't win a tournament game, but I had a great time, and I probably didn't win a tournament game for like months, or at least like a month or two. But my dad would bring me like almost every week or every other week. So there was kind of a really big scene here in San Diego, where we could go. And I remember Hoth being out by the time I was going to tournaments. Um, and I would just like lose every single game and have a great time. And eventually my dad would be like, "What does my son need to win this game?" And the guys would be like, "He needs like better cards." Like, and he's like, "Okay, which cards does he need?" And my dad made it happen for me. Like, more or less, like he got into collecting, and he was just like he really he thought it was good for me. He enjoyed it as
Mm-hmm.
as something that we did together. He got into collecting, and it became like our thing that we would do almost every weekend, to the point where like he became a tournament director and would direct tournaments on the weekends where tournaments were not scheduled. And it's just always been a love of mine, like from that moment, like all the way through the end of, the print.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a big break, and it's still like I rediscovered it, and it's like something that it's like a love of mine that I rediscovered. And I'm so happy the PC has kept it alive. And I
Cool,
guess I
cool.
kind of had to take a break, but
So you kind of stopped around the time of the print of the game going out of print, and then was GEMP, the early days of GEMP, was that you getting back into the game?
yeah, I found GEMP Lord of the Rings and was enjoying playing that. And Troy came into the chat and was like, "Hey, I'm doing a site like this for Star Wars. If anyone wants to come check it out." And I happened to see that and was like, I swear, one of the first people to like come check out the new site.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was
Yeah,
I was kind of there at the beginning.
yeah, you definitely were in. I remember you being in the first tournament. Well, I mean, first of all, you're like, you and Batmouse are the only names that I remember from back then that were on GEMP regularly
Yeah.
in like 2014. When I played then, and then I stopped playing around the reset, and got back into things in 2019. And you and Batmouse are the only ones in the GEMP world that were there back then. And I remember Batmouse running the first tournament, and you playing in that. Um, but yeah, just cool that you stuck around. So the first like the first big event that I remember you in was, I think, was it Worlds, the online Worlds 2020, or did you play in events prior to that?
I think that's fair to say that the Online Worlds was the first big event I played coming back. That was probably the first time I had a laptop that I thought could
Mhm.
handle it.
Mm, mm. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, the technical difficulties getting back in this game were rough, but once I got past that, I got up to speed pretty quickly.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember you and Solid Snack were both people who like were that were always around on GEMP, but then like I didn't think of you as like in the inner circle, in the, engaging with the community, on Slack and the forums and stuff. And so I was really happy when you guys played in the Online Worlds, just because that to me showed that you were kind of taking the next step into the kind of the more mainstream of Star Wars CCG. And I think there were a handful of others, but you two are the ones that are still here, at least that played in that event. I was real happy when that event had that kind of crossover. So the thing is, so GEMP is online,
Yeah,
and San Diego was in person.
yeah.
Um, did you? I mean, do you have cards?
Yeah, so we never sold our collection. We kept it like my dad actually rented a storage unit all the years like I never played and kept them there. He actually has all my collection there. It's actually pretty nice. Like pretty solid. And yeah, I have cards, but like he lives about 30-minute drive from me, and I can go over there and like build decks and print out V slips, and he like always kind of helps me like do the cutting and stuff. Um, but yeah, I guess like as I have more V slips cut out and more cards pulled out, like deck building is going to be easier, and I'll have more
Mm-hmm.
decks kind of built. But initially, like I'd say right now, I only have like I don't know, like 200 cards that are like together. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
the rest of them are just kind of sorted and put
Uh-huh.
away.
Well, you're lucky that they're sorted.
Yeah, my dad was all about it. It was ridiculous. Like I was a young kid and I would like pull out all the cards and he would just sort them back. Like it was kind of
Yeah.
he loved it as a hobby, just collecting and sorting and he's currently designing his own card game right now.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Um, so yeah, that's good that you had. So do you have any were you playing when cards were just like insanely cheap? Do you have any memories of getting any crazy good deals in like 2002 on sealed product?
I mean, not as much as we should have. I like at the time, like okay, so my interest in the game like kind of waned as I thought as a young kid I thought Decipher's like clearly just trying to rip us off with like releasing all these ultra powerful cards in these
Mm,
last sets back to back to back to like take
mm,
all of our money. And I thought it was ridiculous that like we were buying them. I was kind of like over it because they were just flooding with like all this power creep and
right,
like
right.
the it was just all too powerful, all too fast, and I like really
Mm,
didn't appreciate that.
mm,
Like I just thought it was too rushed. And but my dad was like he saw the value in Star Wars as a collectible and was like
mm,
pretty adamant on like continuing to like buy. And when I guess our community, what we would do is we would drive to LA and we would go to a wholesaler and we'd share a case of boxes.
oh, okay.
And we try to pull boxes as cheaply as possible that way. And I remember after they lost the license, my dad maybe made one more trip to the wholesaler and
Uh-huh.
ended up pulling some boxes that were like $15 a box
Yeah, yeah.
at that time. But like but it was like we got that little stash and then we kind of forgot about it for
Mm,
like
mm,
10 years.
mm.
So yeah, we
Yeah.
still actually do have those sealed boxes and
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Nice is, yeah, you kept it sealed. Well, I don't know. I'm of the opinion that everybody should open all the products so that there can be as much product available to play with as possible. But it is cool. It is that is cool that you got some sealed stuff. Yeah, I mean I wouldn't be playing the game if it wasn't for the $15 boxes in 2002. Like
Right.
we would I mean high school kids with no money, we would kick in $5 a piece 6 or 8 of us would kick in $5 a piece and spend $30 on a display of Enhanced Jabba's Palace, and then do like a sealed tournament with that, and divvy up stuff, or like my probably the best deal I ever got was $35 for a Reflections 2 box. That was pretty good. And then, or like, I mean, just in general, like $2 for the OTSD boxes, like getting them for about $2 a piece from the wholesalers. That was the,
yeah, absolutely. Or
that was the thing.
Yeah, I don't even want to say. No. Yeah, I mean, I feel like at DecipherCon there was like a lot of stuff one year that was just kind of up for grabs, and my dad did just start grabbing, so we have a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can imagine. It's just interesting because I feel like, I mean, obviously everything from our childhoods everybody thought would be worthless is now worth a bunch of money if you did it right, except for Beanie Babies. But like I even remember like a few years later, like in 2007, being like, well, I'm buying this, and it's, I know it's going to increase in value. It's kind of an investment, but I didn't buy like, I mean, I have a lot of cards, but could have bought more.
Right.
I could have kept. The other thing is I could have kept buying them. Like but whatever. It's, I have enough. I don't need any more. I just, anytime somebody's like, well, if I could go back in time, I'd buy a copy of Action Comics or whatever. It's like, no, you would go back in time and you would like, you just want to have a lot of money. like it's
not that interesting.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, but still, it's like, if I coulda, shoulda, yeah. But anyway, but Star Wars cards. Let me see. I had some questions from the community here. Let's make sure we hit them. Have you seen the TV show Breaking Bad? You might like it. Oh, okay. So you are somebody who your primary experience in the last 10 years of playing Star Wars cards has been online. Do you prefer online play, or do you prefer IRL, or do you see a difference?
I'm probably much stronger online, I would think. But I think almost everybody is, because I think it is a little bit easier. There are definitely some things that I don't like online, like I have to read the chat to catch some of the subtle things, like when my opponent is putting a card with commuting, or like drawing a card with Rey. You kind of just have to read the chat to know what's happening. Whereas if you're across from someone, you can just see that they're trying to track this card, and maybe you can try to track it with them.
Yeah, that's
like when Tom puts down cards with dropper Forlom is what I'm thinking about. That I have to like track that in the chat as opposed to looking at it physically with him, because he can do that in his head and I can't. Like for me to, like I can't look at his pile and track that, but if I see he's doing it, that's a different story. I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But
yeah, I was playing the other day, and I was playing against Carl, and I could not remember. It was a mains versus mains matchup, and I could not remember if he had lost his other battleground. So it was like I could either, stack at the battlegrounds that were out, or I could hold back. And I was like, we were playing in person, and I was like, let's scroll back the GEMP chat. Did you lose the battleground?
Yeah, I feel like
it was a casual game, so he said yes. But that's something the GEMP chat gives you all the info. Yeah, which is a little bit of a different dynamic, especially with the weirdness of the lost pile not being like it's being faced up without being public information.
Totally. Yep. I mean, yeah, it's like there's definitely differences. But I think that if there's, I mean, there's a lot of overlap as well. Like I've definitely put in all my hours, almost all my hours of practice online since returning to the game. So I've had very few hours of live play, which I definitely enjoy more.
Mhm.
I mean, I love the social aspect of this game. For me, like looking back on it, like not only did I kind of lose interest when the cards went out of print, but my friends all lost interest.
Mm.
Like the community that was in San Diego stopped playing cards. So it was time to move on. Like
Mhm.
as far as I was concerned, like I was disconnected from the community. And maybe, if there had been like a vibrant scene still left there, maybe I would have
Mhm.
kept playing. But I went off to college anyway. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. So it was just a time in my life to step away from the game, I guess.
Right. 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 I think a lot of people have that.
But now that I've rejoined this community, like I definitely feel like I have friends at these events now,
Mhm.
and I don't know, it's such a great community, and playing live like is definitely harder in some ways to remember all the text, whereas obviously
Yeah.
when you play on GEMP they light up.
Hmm. Hmm. But I do think the fact that you were able to, uh, I mean, is this the second live event that you've played in? You played in some states or something a few years
So
ago, right?
yeah, I flew to Denver for U.S. Nationals,
Okay.
and I drove to LA with Matt Sperling to a regional event.
Okay. Okay.
So those are actually the only like live games of slapping cards practice that I've
Mhm.
had since coming back.
Yeah. So that I mean that says something to me. Um, that like you've been playing online for years and years, and you played in just a couple of live events, and then you were able to show up and uh get second place at a major. I mean, that speaks to me that like there is some overlap in skill there,
There's
between
definitely a lot of overlap
um
in familiarizing yourself with the cards, but I
mhm.
also feel like I am pulling on that muscle memory from my time playing back in the
Mhm.
day. Like I
Oh, okay.
played like
Okay.
I played a lot. Like I think when I checked the ranking, that was like I feel like Echo Base Stormtrooper put it out for us to see, and I hadn't seen it in so long. But I think the shocking numbers, I had almost like 300 games like ranked, which is
Mhm.
like a ton. So
Okay.
the ranking wasn't that good, but it was a lot of games.
Mhm. Well, that I just I don't know. I feel like there's certain people in this community who still are a little reluctant to think of GEMP as real Star Wars cards. Um, and I think that, I mean, even if you are pulling, even if you do still need the in person play, I think it speaks to um it speaks to your what you've been able to get since then. And I mean, I don't know. I also always tell people it's like I don't think there's a single time that I personally have played on GEMP instead of playing in person. So it's not like it's one or the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
you play on
so
GEMP because you don't have the opportunity to play against against somebody in person at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night.
yeah, I love this game. I love to try to teach new players if I can, and I definitely know that there are some people that would only play on GEMP and would be
Mm-hmm.
more likely to enjoy learning how to play on GEMP and would be completely uninterested in playing the game as a card game. Whereas there are other people where that would be reversed, where they have
Mm-hmm.
no interest in learning this game that's on a computer, but would be
Mm-hmm.
interested in learning it as a card game, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it can be marketed as both. I think maybe like there's some room to grow Star Wars as a computer game.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars cards is a
Mm-hmm.
computer game. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
see if we can attract those types of gamers that wouldn't slap cards or try to
Right.
collect,
Right.
do the arts and crafts.
Yeah. That's an interesting thought. I mean, not that isn't something that we're doing, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of
you're
course.
right.
Yeah.
Um, that is an interesting thought. Yeah. Uh, Travis, local guy that is a new player. I play with him in person almost every week, which I'm grateful for that opportunity. But it's like I just know that he would, and he has picked up the game. Don't get me wrong, he has picked up the game pretty quickly, and I think does really well. But I think if he embraced GEMP just a little bit more, he'd get, I mean, you get twice as many reps at least, even if you just play a couple games a week on GEMP. It's just it's crazy that opportunity. And as somebody, and I'm sure you did this, because everybody has done this. Everybody has done the solitaire thing, alone in a basement. You got your two decks, and either you're sitting so that like you're perpendicular to the two decks, or you like walk from one side of the table to the other. Like
Absolutely.
the guy,
Of course, that's all I would do. Of course, on the floor in my room, absolutely, I would sprawl out both my decks, 100%.
And GEMP is infinitely better than that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a question from Rebort, who I forget who that is. And it's one of these, and I looked up the reference. It is a reference to something, but I'm curious if he did it because he knows that you know the reference. What if you tried to build a spaceship with a cannon that shoots crocodiles at everyone you hate? What if those crocodiles could shoot heat-seeking killer bees, ensuring there would be no escape?
That's a question.
That is the question.
What if?
What if? Something about shooting at crocodiles at everyone you hate, and the crocodiles can shoot heat-seeking killer bees or something.
I mean, what if?
Yeah, exactly.
I would shoot it into the sky, I guess.
It's a reference. Apparently, it's a reference to a song. Whenever people make those like obscure questions, I never know if that's like an inside joke between them and my interviewee, or if it's just something weird and random.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't get the reference.
Yeah, that's okay. A bunch of people talking about how you used to have a bad computer. Okay, this sounds like something that you can. I have no idea the context of. Blake S asks, you and your dad were angling a trade in SD with some pretty cool stuff. Yeah. Were you guys able to make it happen?
No, mate. No, not yet. So we were angling to complete my player set because our collection's pretty good, but inevitably, like if I want to build certain deck types, I still have to borrow cards. Mm-hmm. So I'm like one Emperor short for my Agents deck, for example. And I think I only have 4 Luke Skywalker Jedi Knights.
Only 4?
Yeah. So if I wanted to play with 6, I'd have to borrow a couple. So I was trying to get 2 Luke Skywalker Jedi Knights and an Emperor Palpatine. And let's just say those cards are hard to get. Not a lot of people were trying to release that. But our offer was a sealed box of Endor, which is it's something that like I want the cards to play, like for me, like I've actually opened a box of Endor before. There is nothing in there that's more exciting than 2 Luke Skywalkers and an Emperor. Like it's not even close. But for whatever reason, the market value on that sealed box is pretty comparable to those cards I want. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's what we were trying to make happen. And a lot of people thought it was reasonable in that way that they could move the box and then rebuy those singles and make their money back. And we thought that, we could do that too, but we may as well cut out the middleman of like the eBay fees and all that, Yeah. So a lot of people did think that the offer was fair, but those people also didn't seem to have those cards.
That's the problem with trading. I just feel like the people who have the energy to trade usually don't have the cards that I want. it's like I'll be like, I got this, especially like I'll be like, I got this card up, this card up for trade. I'm trying to get these cards or whatever, and we'll do a thing, and they'll be like, and I'll be like, well, that's not quite, you don't have all the cards I need, so like, what do you have that we could make it? And they send me this list, and it's like, I don't need any cards from Premiere. Like, I probably don't need any cards from Premiere to Special Edition. Like, I mean, I'm not going to say I wouldn't, I'm not saying that like for a while I was doing it, and I'd like have somebody add like a Death Star to even out the trade or something when they sent me those lists. But like, it's like the people who, if they have all the cards, if somebody has enough cards that they have an Emperor Palpatine to trade, then what do you have that they actually want? But
trade
yeah. Sealed product though seems like people would.
Yeah, my dad's done some trades. Like he swapped boxes. Like he swapped a box of Theed for a box of Coruscant, even though he knew one was worth less than the other. Like the one he was getting was worth less because our collection had less Coruscant, so he didn't care.
Uh-huh.
It's like,
well, yeah, and that's true too. That's true too. When you trade, you can be like, there is a like, I'm allowed to lose this trade if I get the thing that I want.
Exactly.
That's definitely, I think that's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
But I also just like the wheeling and dealing of trading always like exhausts me.
Me too.
And like the people that like walk up to you on round 7 of an event after I just lost my 6th game of the day, and they're like, "Oh, you got a trade binder?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got this binder that I made in 2007 with what I thought were the good cards I had then." Like I also, you said your collection is super organized. Mine is, I mean, fortunately I did organize them. It is organized by set now, but that was like a big project. And it's still, that's not organized enough.
I'm really lucky I have my dad that way. Like he's made playing Star Wars cards a lot easier.
Yeah, I think if I had, I don't know, I tell myself if I had like a little bit more space, because I've got like kind of my my man cave area here, and I know that's a cliche, but it is actually an apt word. I have this space, but it has to be my movie theater room, it has to be my Star Wars cards room, it has to be my podcasting studio, and it has to be my music studio, and it can not always be all of those things at once.
Fair.
So like if I could, I can't just have my Star Wars cards out for weeks on end, or else when people come over to podcast, there's no place for them to podcast. So I use that excuse. Also, my comics I also have my comic books in my room, which are even less organized. Star Wars cards are easier to organize than comics. That at least they take up less space. Let's see. I feel like somebody had a good question. You kind of talked about the decks you played in San Diego, but Carl wanted to know what made you play 2 alien heavy decks in San Diego.
That's kind of a coincidence. I feel like I played control decks because I thought they'd be better than mains decks. And like I said, like I didn't really actually put that much prep into it. I tried a lot of different Saga platforms and mains platforms and testing, and just hated all of them, and hated Diplo against Thrawn. So I feel like QMC was what was left that I knew how to play.
So you did some testing then. You played some different builds, and you didn't like them.
Yeah, I played the Saga builds, and that's why like when I saw Drew's deck at San Diego and it was like the Anakin Saga deck, I was like, oh, that's how you build it. Like that deck looks fun. Like I didn't understand. that's how it's done. Like, you don't need General Kenobi. Like, if you take out General Kenobi's, you have more slots. Like, it plays differently. Like, I don't know. I was really impressed by Drew's list, and I kind of realized it the second I saw it that I couldn't wait to get my hands on that deck list.
Yeah, I always like that feeling. That's unfortunately got errated immediately, but that's kind of how I felt about Joe Olson and his team's Yoda Muning deck after Worlds. Because I felt like I had been like trying to solve Yoda Muning like all last summer.
Yeah.
And then I gave up on it eventually. And then I say, oh, the Cantina. And
I can't believe nobody thought about that besides Team 5. Like, that was pretty innovative. They kept it under their hat. Like, but that was, I mean, why didn't anybody else think of that? Like, that was great.
So you know what the worst thing is?
Yeah.
I was like, thinking, that it was like the Stone Soup where like I had an idea and then like built this completely other deck around it, and actually the other deck was better. But I wanted to take advantage of Obi-Wan Padawan Learner in a Yoda Muning deck, because then you can play an Obi-Wan. Was my thought.
Right.
It was a bad idea.
Right.
And but he's like, I think he reacts on Tatooine or something like that. And so I was like, oh yeah, Tatooine, and then you can pull the Cantina, and I actually, I mean, he had already built, like, I'm not saying that it was my idea, but I had sent Joe Olson a Yoda Muning on Tatooine that pulled the Cantina like a month before Worlds, and I was like, this is bad, right? Because I had, you have ideas and you need somebody to tell you that they're bad. So sometimes I will build a deck and then send it to a good player, and I'll be like, this is a bad idea, right? And he was like, no, it's a good idea. And then I think I played some games with it and didn't win. And obviously it wasn't tuned right. And like I said, it had Obi-Wan Padawan Learner in it, which was not the right choice. But it was like, and I totally forgot about that. What?
Are you on a team?
Yes. I am on team. It could be worse with, it's
Worse is on my team.
No, not it could be worse. It could be worse, like your favorite card. Right. With Chris Kelly, Dorsch, Jar Jar Drinks, Joker King, Brad Iyer, Carl.
Yeah, that's a really solid team, man.
Yeah. Gotta say the last three people or they'll be mad at me. Robbie, Stimpy, and Travis.
You gotta go to those guys with your next good idea.
Oh yeah, no, I went with that. I went with them, but I didn't believe them because I knew that idea was bad. No, we have a lot of we do have a lot of productive. We have a lot of productive stuff. And again, I'm not saying that I gave Joe Olson the idea for his Worlds deck. That is patently false.
Well, I certainly hadn't thought of it.
But I came out of Worlds and I was like, why didn't anybody think of it? And then Robbie actually was like, didn't you send us this list? and it was that. And I was like, oh yeah. But it wasn't, it wasn't tuned or whatever. But yeah, it was just like, I really liked Joe Olson's build coming out of that. And I do like when you see a deck and you just like, oh yeah, that's how that should be built. Now I'm going to learn to play that deck, or like you sit down like the first time and you feel like you're playing a deck that's like, just like, 5 times more powerful than the deck you've been playing for the last 3 months. Yeah. It's a good feeling. So I'm glad that you're starting to feel like that about the current meta. 'Cause I'm still lost in the woods with the current meta.
Well, my outlook on the game right now is that I just enjoy playing. So when I load up a game and I get crushed, well, then I know what's good because my opponent just showed me, and then we just go from there in this conversation about Star Wars cards,
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I like playing too, and I don't mind losing, but I also don't like losing 17 times in a row. Like there's kind of a limit to that.
I
But
I actually do. Like, I really enjoy playing Tom. Like, even though even though I know there's a 1% chance to win, and I gotta say that like 1% is when I load up a anti-Tom deck. You know, like I did not win that fair and square because
yeah,
I
yeah.
had my Grimtashes and I had my Piss Shuffles, so
Uh-huh.
it wasn't fair. You know.
I mean, Tom is an insane player, and I really like him as a person. I will admit that I am reluctant to join his casual tables. Because he's one of those people. Sometimes he and I must be on the same schedule. Because sometimes I feel like the only games that I can get, the only other person playing the game right now is Tom. Um, because so many people either only play tournaments, or they only play with their teammates in private games and stuff. Like
Yeah. Yeah, I love
sometimes you
that he
just get
plays
to
with everyone, and I
yeah.
also play with everyone. So you and I can play Kendall forever on
Okay.
this
Okay.
schedule.
Yeah, I will make sure to not avoid you. I don't
Yeah, if
think
my
I I
internet's
don't think I've ever
legit
avoided you.
good.
I may have the only time that I may have avoided you was like if it was like I would with anybody, like if we played 3 days in a row, and both of us were playing the same decks.
Right.
Like sometimes you wanna, but I don't think I ever had a problem. Actually, I feel like I always liked playing against you because like other people would not join your table sometimes, so you would be there. Yeah, I think sometimes the casual GEMP tables get a little bit of a bad rap because it's a lot of new players, or it's a lot of people who have some ideas. Uh, but or they can be kind of bad sports or whatever. But I do think that there are a core of it. Yeah, and Joker King's the same way. Joker King, although he's on my team, so maybe he just joins my tables because he's on my
No,
team.
he plays everyone. He's really nice.
Yeah, Joker King's great. And yeah, Tom. Yeah, I do like that Tom plays casual tables. Don't get me wrong. I just like if Tom kicked my butt last night, and I log on to GEMP, and his is the one table that's sitting there, I might be like, "Ugh, I don't know. Maybe
So
tonight I'll just go to bed early."
yeah, with me, like the way I play Star Wars cards is if I lose a game, like I think either what card did my deck need or what mistake did I make if my deck was adequate to handle the situation. Like was it my mistake or was it the deck? And a lot of times my answer is it was the deck. There was a card I could have used here.
uh,
And then because I only play Tom, it's like he's my meta in my head, and then like all my cards are like anti-Tom. My teammates had to really shake me out of that and be like, "Dude, Tom's not coming to this tournament, man. Like, you don't have to have these cards."
and so who's on which team are you on? Who's on your
So
team?
I'm on the Killer Bees.
Okay, that's the
So
West Coast people like Batmouse,
Fat Mouse
right?
is on the team, and then Brad and Werfs and Jagtech just joined the team.
Okay.
I'm not that like involved on the Discord and like really contributing ideas. I'm mostly just a taker in
Hmm.
this exchange.
Well, that's fine. And I mean, especially if you have like a decent sized team, like any bit that you can contribute is always good.
I'm riding
Um,
for coattails.
what was I going to say? You also are involved in Mind What We've Learned, right?
Yeah, so that's a deck I really love to play. Or at least whenever they give it a boost, I want to see if it's enough to make it
Hmm.
playable. So I will give it a few runs. So I'm like curious I'm
Yeah.
interested. I'm inclined to play it. Especially because that virtual Yoda is just so fun.
Hmm.
Like to be able to redraw anything you want, like into your hand, like it's like a Jedi led, but for any card.
Hmm.
It's really,
Hmm.
really powerful.
Yeah.
So I love that. And I kind of love that it's like you don't have any liabilities. So there's no you're not putting any battlegrounds out, or
Hmm.
at least that's a way you can play it. It's just like all of that Dagobah location. So for me, I think like you think of Jedi training and you think back in the day it was non-interactive, but because of all the shields today, if you play Jedi testing, you're
Right.
basically just trying to go kick their butt, like at their own
Right.
sites. Like you're just trying to take over their sites and fight. So what's not fun about that? Like that sounds
Yeah.
great. And then you got the Yoda thing. So I think it just needs like a little bit more,
Hmm.
and it might actually come back into the meta. Not that anyone really wants that,
Hmm.
but I
Yeah.
think it's interactive and fun and fine.
Yeah. I totally agree. I built a 12 card start. I don't think it's correct to do a 12 card start. It probably should just be a 3 effect start, but I built a 12 card start, very like EPP focused, Mind What You've Learned deck that I really like. And it's like, cause it's like, yeah, I mean, in the modern game now, like you don't really do very much in the first 2 or 3 turns of most games.
Yeah.
So in Mind What You've Learned, being able to use those first few turns to get your testing in. I mean, you're not, because you're getting, because it's not just that like there's shields and interaction stuff or whatever, but like you're knocking out those 3 tests in 3 turns,
Yeah.
and then you are coming all out at them. It's not like you're taking, you're not training up to 5. You're
No.
just training up to 3,
Yeah.
and then you got to go after them. You don't have any way of dealing damage otherwise.
Sometimes I think just training to 1 is fine, but I actually I like Jedi Test 2 and 3. I just like them. Like especially because people forget about Jedi Test 2 all the time. So when ROPS was
2
really
is
big,
huge. Yeah.
when they play ROPS, like it's actually kind of difficult to get 6 ability on the Emperor's
Hmm.
shuttle.
Hmm. Yep.
Like with a pilot, how are you going to do that? Or, when they react, just having 6 ability at every site makes them have to put more cards down, at
Hmm.
least.
Hmm. Yeah, that ROPS matchup is really interesting because, one, they give you some activation, which helps you
Yeah,
out.
right.
Because the activation is a little bit awkward with Mind What You Learn, so they give you activation to make up from that.
Yeah,
They're also taking a couple turns to set up, and
yeah,
then yeah, they can't always get, not even just in space, but even on the ground they can't always rely on 6 ability. Like they're
right.
they're having to, and I mean, yes, they can get their guys back and do all sorts of stuff, but they're having to play your game instead of playing their game. And it's a really, like, I mean, frankly, in 2022, that's probably the only matchup that I could consistently win against ROPS with.
If I thought it had a decent chance against the field, I would definitely bring it to a tournament. Like I would love it. It just needs a little bit more. I'm
Mhm.
not on D&D. D&D does
Right.
such a good job. It's probably not something they even want to do. But if it
Hmm.
got a little bit of help, I would be into it and I would play it.
Yeah. I think Dagobah Virtual, because
Oh,
that
that
was
was
set
great.
like 19 or something. Like
Yeah.
that was pretty recent, and I would suspect that, I mean, there are those like top players on the Mind What You've Learned team that that have, that are working with it and are aware of it, obviously, but like that card is crazy good. Um, yeah, I actually, the thing about like, do you test to 1 or do you test to 3 or whatever? For me, it's like you test to 1, obviously, and then you may as well throw in 2 and 3. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to. My
It's tough
12
because you
card.
have all the sites.
Yeah, yeah, because you're gonna have all the sites. That's, because you're pulling them.
Yeah.
My 12 card one, I was just testing to 2 because I didn't have, because you have to have the effect for 3, or else you have to bend over backwards for 3. Um, but I just like float the effect, and you draw a big hand. I don't know. I haven't played it since the new shields came out, though, so that might dampen, not being able to draw past 14. But let's see. I think Tom had some good questions. What did Tom ask? Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not going to ask that question later. What are your favorite and least favorite decks that you've played?
Oh, like all time or
Yeah,
current?
all time, all time.
Okay, my favorite deck I ever played was right after Special Edition. I would signal for Draw Their Fire. and have lots of revolutions and mains and beggar and frozen assets and battle for overflow. And
Nice.
that deck went undefeated for a really long time in an era where everyone was playing ISB. And I could just kill those outer rim scouts into oblivion and get massive overflow.
Nice.
Um, that I also liked. I don't know exactly which era it was, but Spaceport Speeders, that deck. I don't know if you remember that or.
I mean, I know the interaction that
Yeah,
you get the.
yeah. I feel like okay. So there were like three moments back in the day that I remember where like I feel like we broke the game, and I was like part of breaking it, and that was exciting. So like the shot in the dark, Cloud City, and Spaceport Speeders were like pretty exciting, like innovative decks that like that I'm very fond of how they operate, like between like all that deck manipulation stuff. I really like.
Mm-hmm. Spaceport Speeders is just so crazy when you get that going right, and you can just like just overwhelm them with like doing 100 damage or something.
Yeah, when you can activate like 22 fours, you
Yeah.
know, that was an amazing ability to just drop your whole hand on someone.
Mm-hmm. And throw some frozen assets in there, and it's
Oh
or
yeah,
draw their fire
yeah,
frozen
all that
assets in
stuff
there.
back in the day. But but I mean, I think it's amazing. Like as much as I love like being nostalgic about that era of the game, I think the PC has just done an amazing job with where we're at now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I had some good decks that I liked before the some erratas. You know, like I liked playing ISB and slip sliding away to like the defensive perimeter and playing like a Walker's ISB deck. But they made that impossible. So.
Um, if you had to choose a Star Wars character to be your roommate, who would you choose and why? This is also from Tom.
Oh, that's cute. Um, Probably figuring maybe Max Rebo, some musician to to play music for me, you know, and to hang out. Musicians are always cool. Pretty kick back, maybe they probably like to smoke, you know.
Right. All right. So let's go ahead and well, actually, before we transition to the Pivo questionnaire, is there anything that I should have asked about that I missed?
You're asking me? No, I don't think so. I think we're doing
Okay.
good, man.
Okay. Cool. Nice. I feel like it's been a good mix of real information and freewheeling chat here. So we'll go into the Pivo questionnaire. I think you've listened. You've given me feedback that you've listened to some of my stuff, so you probably know what's coming. But for those new listeners or whatever, this is a list of questions based on James Lipton's Inside the Actors Studio questionnaire, modified for Star Wars. Some of the questions don't make sense. Interpret them however you want to. Just several of the questions mirror each other. So if I say, what's the thing you like? Don't say anything but the thing I hate. So first question, what is your favorite card?
Grim Tash.
Nice. That's all. That's a very polarizing card. What's your least favorite card?
First Strike.
Okay. That's opposite what a lot of people would say. What types of cards stimulate your creativity?
Um, that's hard to say. Cards with like big numbers on them, like causing a big force loss or yeah, yeah, something that seems like it can be abused. Like I'm always like looking at cards in the spirit of trying to break the game and cause an errata. Like to me, that's the goal going into it is force the players committee to errata something. Like that's what we're all looking for. And I think the player that does that the most should be the best player in the world. And I think that that's the best argument for Tom being the best
For
player in the
Tom
world.
being the best player? Yeah, that's true. That's true. Tom, I think the thing about Tom's decks that's so impressive to me is that he's not only is it that he found some unique and unique interactions that forced some errata last year, but also like he wasn't necessarily using brand new cards to do so. He was using the freaking the cheesy let's get to Destiny 9 deck.
You can't stop him. He's my hero. Even if the 9 were a 7, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like he's that's just the icing on the cake.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, but the fact that he was able to build this deck that people have been doing for 20 years, and he was able to figure something out about it to make it win is really impressive. What types of cards just make you want to quit the game?
None. Like, I feel like if something's broken, then I can play it until we all decide it's broken, and then it's done and we can fix it and move on. Like, there's no reason to quit the game. Mm-hmm. Someone will fix it if there's something wrong. And that's the beauty of it.
It's so interesting that you have that idea of because I will also say about the errata thing. Like, I feel like if I built a deck that I was successful with, like if I was the guy that figured out how to, build a court deck that was the best court deck, and I, won a major with it or something like that, and then somebody was like, that deck's too strong, we gotta errata it. Like, I would be upset, because I would be like, I just spent all this time learning this deck, and now I'm gonna have to start from scratch. I mean, I already kind of feel like that when I'm not successful. But that's interesting that for you, the end goal, the end goal is evidence that you really made it would be if they errata the card.
Yeah, if they release a set and then I come with a deck that wins everything, and then they have to errata it before Worlds, and I don't win Worlds, I feel like I still won Worlds, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I totally see where you're coming from. It's the I guess it's the Magic the Gathering Timmy Johnny Spike. I guess that's the Johnny side of things, like where you want to be the one that's coming up with the crazy interactions, even if whether you win or not, winning isn't the end result. Whereas I think with Star Wars cards, I'm more of a Timmy, in that I just want to play the biggest, the biggest numbers, the highest destinies, everything.
Cards like Home One.
Yeah.
And the Executor.
Yeah. I mean, it was unlimited pilots. Like, you can't beat that. Who can draw? Is immune to attrition less than 12? Nobody's ever going to draw a destiny bigger than 12. Yeah. And I mean, like literally, I was building a deck last night, and I was at like 58 cards. I'm like, what? I was just thinking through. I was like, every single Destiny 6 card. What are the playable Destiny 6 cards? What have I forgotten? Because it was the first deck that I built in a long time that didn't have enough EPP lightsaber people to justify 3 or 4 copies of a Jedi's Resilience. So, what is your favorite Star Wars term?
Probably attrition. Attrition's a good one. I'll go with that.
I love attrition because it's a term that I knew from Star Wars cards before I knew in real life.
Exactly.
And then in like history class, when they talked about a war of attrition, everything, it was like the whole universe made sense. Like I understood history because I understood how it worked in Star Wars, and then I understood Star Wars. I understood how it worked in Star Wars because of how it worked in history. It was like I do love that concept. I also just think it's a really elegant, even if it's complicated, it's not that complicated, and it's a really elegant game mechanic. I think that something that there's a little too much immunity to attrition these days, and combined with a little too much limiting of destinies to be able to crack that immunity. Because I really do think that it should be like when you battle, there should be consequences to both sides. I really like attrition. What opponent's deck do you love to see?
I mean, favorable matchup. If I can identify a favorable matchup, I'd love to see it.
Okay. What opponent's deck do you hate to see?
I hate to see Hunt down non-V because I hate losing Force of Visage of the Emperor. Like I hate losing Force. The feeling of losing Force is just really tough. The fact that it's so automatic and so often is really painful for me.
That's interesting. Yeah, I actually I think I was talking to somebody about this on a previous interview. I actually really like playing against Hunt down non-V because I like that it's hitting both, both sides equally. I mean, until they flip, but
dude, I love it if I have Honor of the Jedi out. I'm loving it.
Yeah. But it's like I will be in situations where, I've got Corran Horn in hand, and I could definitely go down and cancel Visage, and then just don't, because I'm like, why would I do that? It's hitting both of us equally. I'm not putting as many cards on the table, or I just want, or I'm a little bit ahead right now, because I'm, one of the best pieces of advice for playing Star Wars cards was something that Eric Hunter said to me a long time ago. Like when you're deciding your next play, imagine if nobody played any more cards for the rest of the game, who would win? And so Visage putting that is a really good factor in that, because if I can get ahead early, which is frankly what I do because I play too aggressively, if I can get ahead early, then Visage will, that's how I beat Gogolin. The one time that I beat him was his Visage. We both were so low on cards, neither of us could pay to drain, and he lost to his Visage. Nice. I think actually Chad Ashnolo said that he just had a GEMP PC match that had to do with he won by 1 because of Visage and the order that who loses first, that the active player loses the card first. Let's see, where were we here? Oh, Star Wars job. What Star Wars job would you like to try?
Being a pilot. Pilot seems fun. Going fast and kicking ass.
Yeah, my problem with being a pilot would be I played a lot of X-Wing versus TIE Fighter as a kid, and when your ship blows up, if you're a pilot, you don't get just another ship.
That's true. You're just dead. When you're dead, you're dead.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully you ejected at least, maybe. What Star Wars job would you want to avoid?
Oh man, anything in the Empire seems pretty shitty. Yeah, being a stormtrooper would be pretty terrible. Yeah, avoid that job.
So fly the TIE Fighter, not being a stormtrooper.
Right.
Yeah. And then finally, if you had, all the money and power in the world, what would you if you could see anything happen, what would you like to see with the future of the game?
I would just like to see more players. I think the PC's doing a great job. Like, I would like for the people that are doing a great job to keep doing it and keep doing the great job they're doing, and for that to ultimately attract more players. Like, I think we are doing a great job, like having a lot of content and a lot of content creation, and I just hope that there could either be like a next generation of players where like our kids play and maybe we play with our kids or something. I just hope the game goes on
Yeah.
because I definitely enjoy it and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to growing the community, it's like, for me, it's like every little bit helps. So, like, being able to from 2021 to 2022 for regionals, we had, in 2021 we had 4 players, and that was the first tournament in Ohio in like a decade, at least, probably more than that. um and then in 2022 we had 13 players, and that really felt like something when we had 13 players, but like we don't need to have 1,000 people at Worlds, but like if we could go from 60 to 100 players at Worlds,
Badass.
that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And
It would have an electric feel to it for sure. Not that it doesn't already. Like, I would still love to and will be at a Worlds sometime in the future. Not exactly sure when that'll work out with my life, but I will be there at some point. So
yeah. I mean, it's just, it's so interesting with this community that, and it does seem like there are people who are discovering the game through Facebook, or people who are, joining the Discord, or content creation stuff, or whatever. And it's like, to get those people from hey, I just found my cards, to actually wanting to come to events and things is the real trick. But it's like, if we could crack that, if you could, because
I think it's the greatest game ever invented. I love it. It's my favorite game, and I understand why it's difficult for people to learn how to play it, because it's a hard game, and that's why I love it. And I acknowledge that it's hard, and it's obviously still hard to play. Even for me, like, I'm very lucky to have the success that I have. Like, I made a ton of mistakes, like made a lot of bonehead plays, and it's like I still won the game anyway. Like, it's hard. It's hard to play well. But it's even hard to just play. It's hard to like know all the cards and know all the rules, and so I have all this experience to draw upon, but someone coming into it fresh, like,
yeah,
it's for me, I would tell them it's completely worthwhile. Of course, I love it,
right.
and they should do it, but it's hard. It's definitely hard.
Yeah,
hard,
and I mean,
that's why I love it.
The thing is, like, you can play on GEMP for free as much as you want. Like,
totally.
Like, you can, if you want to put in the time and effort,
Tom will play with you.
You can get Tom will play with you, exactly, or random people will play with you. Like, that's actually a thing. Like for a long time, I was playing, in 2013, 2014, and it's like the only time I got to play against people was when I was traveling to an event and playing against one of the 20 best players in the world. I do think that the community has grown since then, and there's more players at different levels than there used to be. So it's it's a little less less frustrating in that way. Yeah, I do think that it's a shame that the game really is dependent on you knowing a lot of cards, like more so than like when you play Magic, like you can kind of look on the table and you can be like, okay, my guys are stronger than your guys. It's right for me to attack. And maybe you're playing around certain cards for the format, but that's kind of a next level thing. In Star Wars cards, you kind of always have to be playing around the stuff because they always have the answers, and that creates a little bit more of a struggle. But yeah, it's definitely worth it. It's definitely a great game. It's Star Wars, and it's good community. Yeah, I totally Totally agree. Well, I really appreciate you coming on tonight, Heisenberg, and good luck in all of your future and whatnot stuff.
Thanks for having me, Kendall. I want to say before we go that I'm just a big fan of yours and all the music that you do and all the podcasts that you do, and it's a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. All right. Well, and thanks everyone for listening. Until next time, good luck, have fun, and no reverts.
All right. Take care. Bye.
All right. This podcast is a production of the KendallCast Podcast Network. If you'd like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/KendallCast or make a direct donation through the PayPal link at kendallcast.ninja. Thanks for listening.